Pokemon Go was one of the biggest viral phenomenon that happened in the latter part of the last decade. But maybe its biggest positive effect on society has been overlooked. 5 years ago, something magical happened to millions of Americans, and that was that they chose to incrementally improve their overall health. And they did this while also chasing Charizards and Squirtles, whatever the heck those things are. In 2016, Pokemon Go had 233 million global active users, and it was estimated that 19% of those were in the US market. Just to give you a little sense of comparison, in 2016, Pokemon Go's monthly active users were about half the level of Instagram. And if we compare this to another social media platform like Pinterest, in 2016, Pokemon Go had 2.5 times more users than Pinterest. These Americans were addicted to a video game, but they also were subconsciously opting into the next fitness craze. This potentially makes Pokemon Go one of the most important video games of all time. And those learnings could have a ton more value in today's world. One of the biggest benefits of Pokemon Go was that it flipped the key element of smartphone games on its head, because though a smartphone game could really be played anywhere, Pokemon Go had to be played somewhere. A player of Pokemon Go had to get out of their home, find different Pokemon within different locations around their city to be successful in the game. So that means one of the biggest benefits of Pokemon Go was that individuals got more sunlight. And it is the sunlight that's required to make vitamin D. And it's this lack of vitamin D that's usually a consequence, not a cause of disease. And I won't go into why this maybe is extremely important right now. You can type into the Google machine the current pandemic and vitamin D and kind of see the linkages that are happening right there. But beyond that, vitamin D plays a key role into just the overall mental health and overcoming or kind of improving depression during a lot of the seasons in America where there's a lack of sunlight or just individuals not going outside because there's a lot of snow and just cold weather. And then another very important thing that Pokemon Go did, and maybe the most obvious, was that it increased physical activity. If motivating yourself to exercise daily was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody kind of needs their own thing to motivate themselves. If you are a fitness freak and you are laughing at the thought that somebody would need Pokemon Go to motivate themselves to work out, it's not all that different than some of the wearables that you have on your wrist or maybe on your ring finger that gives you a ton of different metrics and data so that you can compete against yourself. So though the gamification mechanisms maybe are a little bit different, it's very similar when you get down to this. And this connection between wearables and Pokemon is not necessarily all that new. In 2009, the Pokemon company did try to mix kind of connected fitness elements, wearables, and their entertainment IP with their Pokewalker, but it was only launched in Japan. So they've been thinking about this for a while. So it's not all that surprising that Pokemon Go, at least by the way it was designed and some of the mechanisms and kind of the elements that were in the gameplay, that Nintendo and the Pokemon company and another kind of game developer that I'll speak about later knew that this was going to help overall fitness, help increase the overall activity. If you were a player and you walked a certain amount during the gameplay, you were given some certain kind of benefits. And it's the simple gamification mechanism that is likely attributed to the reason why players within the first week of playing Pokemon Go averaged about 955 more steps a day than at the time before they started playing the game. And fitness tracker Jawbone also claimed that users of its fitness band who also mentioned that they used it in conjunction with Pokemon Go logged a whopping 62.5% more steps the weekend that they played compared to steps taken during a normal weekend. The fact is, Pokemon Go was very key in increasing the physical activity and reducing sedentary behavior. And a lot of studies kind of came out during that time. Most of them pointed to that overweight and obese people saw the biggest benefit from this. They got off their butts more, they were a lot more active than they normally would. So there's definitely a huge potential. Though I have to caution that there's a little bit of a but. Although Pokemon Go smashed the download records in 2016 and shot up the rankings of the app stores, by the end of 2016, things started to fizzle. The new downloads stopped and it dropped off the rankings in the app stores. And while that shooting star type trend effect is definitely alarming, I think what's more challenging was the fact that a study came out that said after 6 weeks of playing Pokemon Go, players did not see any difference in the amount of steps they took at that point compared to before they started playing Pokemon Go. So after 6 weeks, most players just stopped playing the game. They were no longer interested for whatever reason. And why this is kind of important to mention is that those headlines were easily weaponized and used in a way by writers or media properties trying to get a bunch of clicks. And though most of us will say we don't read headlines, we don't kind of judge a book by its cover because we're usually very busy and we're consuming a ton of content, we do browse and just kind of skim the headlines. So if you are a game developer, an entrepreneur, and you're looking at that, you're saying, wow, this maybe isn't as attractive an area for me to create a game or maybe try to create a business out of. Or if you're a public policymaker, maybe you're looking at the results of that and saying, wow, maybe this didn't have the effect that we thought it would. And this stunts a lot of that creativity, a lot of that excitement around these AR location-based smartphone games. But here's kind of the issue when headlines were written that way and people interpreted that, is that there's a major difference between public policy, or what ultimately helps the group, and personal health, or just kind of at the individual level. Pokemon Go is definitely not suited for everybody, but for a lot of people that are lacking the motivation, they're trying to find whatever activity possible that they will be consistent with, that they'll continue with, and that will improve their overall health. Augmented reality, location-based smartphone games, or just moving that even a step further into virtual reality, if it is attached somehow to fitness, has a ton of potential currently and in the future. But just me saying that, and people that kind of looked past the headlines and dug in a little bit deeper and saw that there was a huge potential benefit to kind of helping the American obesity epidemic, and just honestly seeing the dollar signs that are still related to a game like Pokemon Go, you would expect to see a ton of clones, but you haven't. And there's a reason behind that. And before I kind of mention that, I think it's important for me just to say that Pokemon Go, this type of location-based AR game, they're not the first. There actually was a lot of other games that happened even 7 years prior to that. One of the well-known games in 2009 was called My Town, where you were kind of like in a real estate game. You went around to locations and there was a social media element to it as well. In 2011, a similar kind of thing came out with Life is Crime, where you would go to real locations, but you were creating kind of fake crimes. And both of those were moderately successful, but it didn't necessarily change the idea of what gamers thought of smartphone games. So what exactly was different about Pokemon Go? I think firstly, and maybe this is understated a lot, is that Pokemon is an extremely valuable global intellectual property, an entertainment kind of property. People know this, people like it, people continuously engage with Pokemon. And because of that, that creates just an initial level of interest. But beyond that, the way that Pokemon Go was created was extremely entertaining and compelling and kept people engaged with the game longer than a few days. So kind of knowing some of those positive attributes that created the Pokemon Go effect, why haven't we seen a lot of those clones? The technology that Pokemon Go embraces is not that easy to replicate. You actually have to spend a lot of money and a lot of research. It takes a lot more time than you would think. And for game developers, a lot of them are fast followers. A lot of them are trying to create clones of games very quickly that they can make money on. They can throw up into the App Store. Maybe they can create it off of Unity software. And this isn't necessarily the case with a Pokemon Go type of game. And beyond that, a game like Pokemon Go, you needed to have massive scale. You needed to have a ton of users playing it. And not necessarily just a couple 100,000, you need millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions to make the game as enjoyable as it was. Because of it being location based, you were getting out of your home, you were going to run into people also playing the game, which created some like social interaction. Also, there was a gameplay element when you were playing against real people. So if you don't have that, Pokemon Go is hard to replicate. There is a little bit of hope for the future. I mentioned the other game developer that was a part of Pokemon Go, and this is Niantic. Niantic was a spin-off of Google, so they were really well versed in how to utilize some of those tools like maps and your camera on smartphones. And the success of Pokemon Go was extremely important for Niantic to become one of the most valuable gaming companies in the world. And they built that kind of platform that Pokemon Go was built off of, and they knew they could open that up to other app developers. And while this doesn't solve for all of the problems that I kind of mentioned to create another Pokemon Go like game, it does create lower barriers of entry, so game developers could make money on the game. They could be motivated to create games that are similar to this. It opens up another level of creativity to utilize some of those tools that could be extremely important in helping the obesity problem in America. I just want to end on some final thoughts. Pokemon Go is definitely one of the most successful games all time and has inspired the future of augmented reality experiences. It also had a broader impact on society through its potential health benefits. While gamification and location-based smartphone games, augmented reality, virtual reality is all going to be a key piece in helping to reverse the obesity problem in America, it's not the only thing that's going to help. There's going to be a ton of different things that need to kind of fall into place to make this work, but it's definitely a solution for many Americans that have trouble motivating themselves to work out on a regular basis. I hope you guys enjoyed this piece of content. If you did, I have a kind of a similar piece of content that I've made before that I think you'll find extremely interesting. And this is around how grocery e-commerce algorithms can improve the overall nutrition of Americans and hopefully be another element to help reverse the obesity problem in America. Thank you again for checking out this content. If you have any questions about it, please leave a comment on the content or reach out to me on any of my social media accounts.